Maybe, but I
That's-
am in the waiting room. If you hit view.
There you are. Are you Keith B? No.
It's, yeah. Let's see. So let's see if we. Where's our camera here? Take off blur my background. And we can see the screen from here. And it's picking up our audio. And it should kind of follow us around
Yeah,
as we speak.
it is following you around.
So
Okay.
where are your presenters going to be standing, you know?
Well, I mean, wherever you tell them to, but
Yes.
I mean, I would guess pretty close to the podium. They do have a PowerPoint.
And then as they speak, it should pick up where they're at in the room.
Okay, and then how does it work with the deck?
So we should, do we have the deck pulled up?
I just put it on my desktop. I didn't pull it up.
I'm not hearing it here. I'm gonna admit myself.
Recording in progress.
Oh, I think we want to stop the recording. Yeah.
So if we turn my volume down, I'm gonna mute up.
From doing this work. So, and I just heard the recording in progress. Let's get started. So, it just means that we have to work maybe a little bit differently in educating our community and our main stakeholders about the benefits of having legal immigrants enter the workforce. I think what we all realize by now is that you've heard me say this before, Northern Kentucky is the economic engine of our state. We have a lot of great jobs available, but just not enough willing and capable workers currently to fill those positions. And without immigration, our demographics would be stagnant, if not going in the wrong direction. Having immigration allows us to have enough people to be able to insert into those good jobs. And the truth of the matter is that right now, I have about 44, and Brian or Dr. Myra can correct me on this, but I think nationally we have about 44 million immigrants. 11 million are legally able to work today in this country. Many of our immigrants here today are already documented and legally able to work. But what we've seen is our employers are a little bit intimidated by this entire process, right? The employers don't exactly know how to successfully get non-US born citizens into their workplace. So that's the whole point of today, as we've got some experts on the subject matter here joining us. Hopefully then we'll be able to assure our employers that there is a successful way to get legal immigrants into the workplace so that we can fill these positions. And by the way, while also helping our non-US born residents get into gainful employment and ultimately a better life, which is, I know, what everybody wants. So I just wanted to kind of take time to kind of clear that up before I introduce our experts to lead us in this conversation. I also want to say we've got Dr. Burling, Dr. Jackson, Dr. Wright. I'm not a doctor, so I feel a little bit left out here today. You're not a doctor? No, you're. I've just given you an honorary doctorate. I don't know. Oh, that's your doctor. There we go. So, all right. So, without further ado, I'll read our intros for our main speakers. Brian Wright is the executive director of Cincinnati Compass. Most of his professional career has been dedicated to working with immigrant and refugee communities to build social, civic, and economic power while advocating for more inclusive and welcoming policies and practices. He's the former manager of international student affairs at Cincinnati State Technical and Community College and has worked for several years in refugee resettlement in Nashville. He holds a master's degree in international studies from Florida International University and a PhD in geography from the University of Cincinnati. His doctoral research focused on immigration, immigration representation, and urban regeneration in the Cincinnati region. So welcome, Brian. Dr. Wright. Next, Myra Casas Jackson. Myra has extensive experience advocating for Cincinnati's immigrant community. Before becoming executive director, Myra led IRLC's, going to have to help me with that. Thank you. Immigrant and Refugee Law Center's school and community outreach programs, representing individuals requesting humanitarian relief before U.S. citizenship and immigration services. A native of Peru, Myra came to the U.S. in 2003. She worked at the Legal Aid Society of Southwest Ohio for 10 years, and before that served as the first immigrant liaison at the Cincinnati-Hamilton County Community Action Agency. She has a bachelor's degree in tourism management and studied law in Peru, and she got an honorary doctorate degree today. Please join me in welcoming Brian Wright and Myra Jackson. Let's kick this off, Doesn't seem to be forwarding here.
Just gotta use that to move forward.
Yeah. If you don't mind, just the arrow.
All right. Thanks, Corey. Good afternoon, everybody. He's throwing that word expert around. I feel like more on the court jester before the queen comes out. So it's just, I'm here for the laughs and such, but really more so of a cheerleader to talk about who's coming here, why this is important, why we're having this conversation today. And then Myra will go into kind of the technical aspects as the expert around compliance and immigration issues, right? So and that'll be the kind of the two pieces. And then the bigger part is we want to have a broader conversation with you all. Because as you are on the front lines, what are the challenges you're seeing? What are the good things you're seeing? And how can we work together in a more intentional way to ensure that Northern Kentucky and Southwest Ohio continue to be a hub for global talent and innovation, right? So we know that immigrants and refugees are driving population growth in the region, and we know why that's important, right? It's important for the tax base, it's more diversity of thought and innovation, and I'll get into more details about this, but we know that job growth is outpacing population growth, so we have to get the talent from somewhere, right? Yes, we could pull from Nashville and Indianapolis and Austin, Texas, but they're doing the same strategy we are. So we still need to bring people from outside the U.S., whether it's through universities like NKU and Gateway or through our employers and such, or through the refugee resettlement process. So we'll go into this and I'm going to be the boring guy with the data at first. And so ask questions along the way. And I think we can share this afterwards and we'll go into some more conversations later on. So kind of touched on that. And so what we do at Cincinnati Compass, we really focus our areas in three key areas of workforce development, small business development, and civic engagement. Civic engagement to broaden the bench of representation of immigrants and refugees in decision-making, whether it's on boards, on commissions, in elected office, forming employee resource groups with employers, and then also in our small business, because sometimes people do have barriers to mainstream employment, so they turn to entrepreneurship. So we have a very highly entrepreneurial community, which then turns them into job creators in the region. And not just our, the restaurants and nail and hair salons, the Main Street businesses that add vibrancy to our neighborhoods, but also in the tech startup and construction, landscaping, really across the board. And then we also do workforce development. So helping internationally trained professionals. 48% of immigrants and refugees in the region have a bachelor's degree or higher, but they're underemployed. So how do we work at things to help them get their degrees evaluated for U.S. credit? How we work at the state level to reduce barriers for licensure and credentialing, whether it's in nursing, engineering, teaching, and so forth. So those are the kind of areas that we work in. And also we do narrative and storytelling as well, and around some cultural things. But you'll see up here in the top right, is kind of the levels that we work at. So we work at the community level, connecting people to resources, connecting communities to each other, and then working with providers to make sure that their services are visible and accessible to community members. So on the Ohio side, we've worked with Ohio Means Jobs. So now they have interpreters at their job fairs. So in Spanish for the Hispanic Latino community and French for the West African community. So that also not only helps the job seekers, but also helps the talent acquisition specialists to engage with potential employees. And so working with providers, but also with employers, and we'll talk a lot about more what that looks like here today. And then we do some policy work as well. And so with our employer engagement, access to talent, attraction, talent pools. You're familiar with Kentucky Refugee Ministries, who is here, and so provide great talent pools in the region, as well as Brighton Center and others, but then also looking at connecting directly with community-based organizations. Remember, I mentioned the civic engagement work. We have a community council of about 25 country and ethnic community-based organizations where you can tap in directly into that talent pool and work with them to build address your talent needs. Knowledge, which is what we're talking here today, and Myra will go into depth about that. Retention efforts, connecting to resources to help make sure that people are staying at the job site, connecting to resources, and then policy again. So now again, the data, that should be a light gray, so there's no way you can see that. That is, okay, sorry. But the important stuff is the stuff that you can see, right? So we'll talk about the kind of where people are coming from, how they're arriving, and then we'll get into the why. So Corey kind of touched on this a little bit, but almost half of the foreign-born population here in the region are already naturalized U.S. citizens. Half, right? So the other half, the majority are work authorized. So when we talk about the unauthorized community, like don't have work authorization, it's a very smaller population. So whether it's international students, people on temporary protected status, humanitarian parole, which we'll go into those in more detail, there's a large pool of people that are work authorized. So we're going to talk with you about how to empower yourselves and also work with employers about how to recognize specific documents. So you can't really see this here, but we know that we want to continue to grow the foreign-born population because in the region, they hold a household income of $4.3 billion that can be reinvested back into the community. And also have, total spending power of $2.1 billion and contribute nearly $400 million in state and local taxes. Where people are coming from. You'll see this resonating in Northern Kentucky as well. This is for the whole region, so not just Northern Kentucky, but also Southwest Ohio and Southeast Indiana. So largely India, Mexico, China, Guatemala, and this should be of no surprise to anybody here in the room, right? I think we all know kind of where people are coming from. I will say about 30% of folks are coming directly from abroad, while the other 70% are coming from other parts of Kentucky and Ohio or other parts of the U.S. And I see people pulling out their phones and stuff. We can share this afterwards, right, Vicki? Yes. So just some data, and we understand that this is the share of the foreign-born population. So we know that some of the end numbers are small for specific cities or townships, but just kind of give you an idea where people are located. Again, this should not be surprising as well because it's where the jobs are. So we see that people are moving into Florence, Fort Mitchell. My parents are living in Florence. And so you just kind of see where people are located around the region. And again, we're seeing in Boone, Kent, and Campbell County, Claremont, Hamilton, Warren, and Butler counties of population growth happening, right? So, and again, being driven by immigrants and refugees. So this gets into kind of the why. When you look at the two bottom pieces, right? Labor force participation. Immigrants are more likely to be engaged in the labor force than the native born are. And part of the reason why is because they're more likely to be prime working age. We have an aging workforce in healthcare and engineering across the board, which are key drivers of regional economic development. We have to, again, find this talent from somewhere. So how do we improve the pipelines for physicians, for example? We know that, say, for for doing residencies, there's kind of a backlog, right? But how do we open up those spaces by helping internationally trained physicians by doing like creating some pathways for observation versus putting them into residency positions, taking them out of that process into other pathways so they can demonstrate their competencies, which helps them on immediately getting access to their work, which we know from community health needs assessments that people want culturally and linguistically relevant care. So it helps the doctor re-enter their field, but it also opens up space for US born individuals that are on a pathway in the medical field as well. So we're looking at policies that benefit everyone. It's not just an immigrant specific policy, but it's something that benefits everybody, right? And so, but this is kind of the two key things of like why we do this. Yes, it is for the humanitarian, for just being a good person and good to the other, right? But it's also it makes good economic development sense. Again, some of the industries that you'll see, this is the share of the foreign-born and workforce in the industries, whether it's manufacturing, education, some STEM fields. We know that 14% of all STEM positions in the region are held by immigrant and refugee community members. A lot of times when we think about things like the CHIPS Act or Intel or other types of advanced manufacturing, we know that in the graduate programs in engineering, applied sciences, that the largest portion are international students. So how do we look at international student talent retention as well? So that's something else we'll get into as well. And we'll see that, with international students, that the financial contribution in Ohio is at $1.3 billion, supporting almost 11,000 jobs. And I can go back to these, I can show these as well. And so, but you also see in Kentucky where the financial contribution is 310 million and supporting 1,821 jobs. So we want to continue to attract talent here to the region, whether it's as international students for humanitarian reasons, through refugee resettlement, through asylum processes, and so on. And before we move on, I wanted to share, because we're going to get into things about different statuses, whether it's DACA, whether it's refugee or humanitarian parole, and we'll get into what those means. But another reason why this is important, why we continue to attract this talent, is because, again, the economic impact, even with the undocumented community members. Rand Paul just said this morning that he thought he kind of disagreed with the broader Republican Party in some of the positions of saying, like, yes, we need a pathway for undocumented community members to have work authorization. So long as they're not committing crimes and they're just, here working and support like everyone else, should have access to some work authorization because, and he knows that, we see in Kentucky for the undocumented community members of paying $48.3 million in state and local taxes. So they're making that economic impact already. And they're contributing to systems they do not benefit from. They're contributing to Social Security. They're contributing to other types of services they do not have access to, contrary to what you may hear on your favorite, cable news station, right? So we want to keep it in the facts, right? So this is another reason why, if we are at these numbers now, what we could be if we just invest a little bit more to help, with the long welcome of retaining the foreign-born individuals. So at that point, I'll turn it over to Mara.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. My name is Mara Casas Jackson. I'm the Executive Director of the Immigrant and Refugee Law Center. Thank you. I'm an immigrant myself. I came here from Peru. So immigration is really, really close to my heart, and I'm very passionate about this issue. So sometimes I get way too passionate and I talk too much. So please tell me. Can you hear me? Yeah, I'm loud too. So I know for me, it's important to send this message to the community. So, and I know I have an accent, so please don't be shy and ask me to repeat if there is something you don't understand that I say. I will not be offended. I'm happy to repeat. I like to talk. I said that already. So we want to talk a little bit about the work we do at the Immigrant and Refugee Law Center. We are a nonprofit, and our goal is to provide free legal immigration services to refugees and immigrants in the area who cannot afford to pay a private attorney. When an immigrant comes to the U.S., and there are so many ways they can come in. We'll discuss a little bit about it. But most of our friends that are coming through the south border, that by the way are not just Central Americans, we see a lot of people from Africa and from Asia coming through the south border because For someone who has no resources and is escaping violence, poverty, cartels, drugs, gangs in their countries, the chances of them coming to the US legally is almost impossible. There is no application where I can go to the embassy and say, hey, here's my application, where do I pay and where do I put my name on that list that everybody's talking about that does not exist. So if there will be a path like that, nobody in their right mind will choose to go to Central America, because people from Africa are flying to Central America, to Nicaragua, and they are walking through Central America to be victims of robbery, victims of crime. A lot of the women we talk to are victims of rape, and they are dragging their kids. Nobody in their right mind will choose that path if there will be a legal way to come to the US. But furthermore, when they arrive in the south border, they are not crossing the border. The people that they are arresting are not people that are trying to cross the border illegally. They are stopping at the port of entry and they are asking for asylum, which it is the legal way to come to the US. They are not crossing the border. They are not breaking the laws. When they get to the port of entry, an officer will conduct a credible fear interview. And if that immigrant can show that they are truly escaping and they are very afraid of their country because their lives are endangered, then they are allowed to come to the US, but because they don't have a visa, they are immediately placed in deportation proceedings with an immigration court. That is another hurdle our clients have to fight with to navigate a system they don't know. In immigration court, our immigrants are treated like criminals without the right of an attorney, while in the other hand, immigration is represented by an attorney whose job is to get our clients deported. So when our clients cannot afford to have representation, they are immediately in disadvantage in court. Private attorneys are hiring between 10 and 15,000 to represent our clients. We're talking about people that have left absolutely everything behind and they cannot afford that. So that's the reason why our organization was created in 2018 to make sure immigrants are navigating this immigration system with dignity and justice. So that's our main goal. We do serve clients that are below 200% of the poverty level. We do serve clients in Northern Kentucky. So if you do have clients, please ask them to visit our website. If you have employees, to visit our website. We do consultations with most people that will complete our website, our request for consultations. We do not do student visas or work visas because our focus is humanitarian relief. We just want to talk a little bit about the legalities of the immigration world, and then we're going to focus about different statuses and who is eligible to work in the US. So I know you are all very familiar about the I-9 form, and it's a form that all employers have to complete with every employee they hire. So you have to make sure the information is complete correctly. You have to make sure that the documents that are submitted to you are the correct documents. Now, you don't need to be an expert on documents. You just have to do your due diligence to make sure that document is correct and it's a valid document. So the purpose again is the compliance of immigration law in preventing fraud, preventing identity theft, and prevent unauthorized individuals from working. Again, there are some exceptions of who can complete this form. So employees that were hired before November 6, 1986 do not have to complete this form as long as they keep the same employment. And contractors, independent contractors do not have to complete an I-9 form for you. However, as an employer, you have the duty to, you cannot hire someone through a contractor that you know it's undocumented. Now, you don't have to investigate, but if you do have that knowledge, then under the law, you should not be hiring that independent contractor. But again, you don't have to do an investigation. They will have to show that you knew that you were hiring someone without an immigration status. So these are the documents that, and you guys are all very familiar with this. So you can teach me more about the I-9 that I can do to you. But these are the documents that you have to gather when you hire someone to prove that they are eligible to work in the US. They could be US citizens and they can show you a passport or a birth certificate. Or if they are immigrants, then they have to show you documents that will meet the list B or list C. And right here is when I want to talk to you about when you work with immigrants. The immigration system, the immigration office and immigration court has a really, really, really long backlog. So what this causes is that when an immigrant has a work authorization and applies for a renewal, it's taking forever for USCIS to get that document to our immigrant. So many employers that are not aware of the law terminate their employee because that employee cannot show a valid work authorization. However, immigration is aware of that, and they understand that immigrants are contributing to the economy and they want them to keep working. So when an immigrant is renewing their work authorization, immigration is now issuing this letter that automatically extends the work authorization for 18 months. So this immigrant is allowed to work for 18 months past their work authorization. Currently, immigration is taking about 12 to 13 months to issue a new work authorization card. So ideally, by the end of the 18 months, your employee will have a new work authorization card to show you, okay? This may change, and I ask you to please keep an eye on what immigration is saying, because unfortunately, the president is now trying to pull resources from the USCIS office to focus on deportations and to focus on immigration law enforcement. So this may cause even longer backlogs for our clients, taking much longer to renew this work authorization. So I will not be surprised if pretty soon these work authorizations will not be automatically extended for 18 months. They will be automatically extended for 24 months or 36 months. So let's just keep an eye on that so we don't terminate employees wrongfully. At least lately, because immigration realized this is crazy, we're only giving work authorizations for 1 year and it's taking us 12 months to renew it. So starting at the beginning of last year, we've seen that now they are issuing new work authorizations for 5 years, which makes everyone's life easier. Why didn't they come up with this great idea before? We don't know. Yes.
Are those issued automatically, or does the individual have to apply for the extension?
The individual has to apply and pay a filing fee because, nothing is free with immigration. It's $540 for our clients to get this card renewed. Maybe that was the reason why they were doing it every year, so our clients will pay more money, but the government could not keep up with the renewal of employment authorizations. So again, like I say, you are not required to be a document expert. You just have to do your due diligence when you are reviewing your employees' documents. And if you suspect that the document is not original, it's not a valid document, just don't accept the document. Do not immediately deny employment to this person. You have to be very careful about this. And I strongly encourage you, if you ever have issues, there is this hotline from the Department of Justice. It's an excellent department for employer and employee resources, specifically for immigrants. They work 24/7. They have attorneys answering that line that will be able to help you with any questions you may have about employing immigrants. So how long do you have to store these documents? You have to store them at least 1 year after termination or 3 years from the date of hiring someone. Because of the times we're living right now, it's very important that you every so often are doing self-audits of your I-9, because ICE will do audits every so often, and they will make sure that you are following the rules, that you are doing everything you're supposed to do. So if you are employing an immigrant and maybe you cannot verify the documents, you can also use the E-Verify. This is a great resource. However, it's very important to say that it is not 100% trustable. Okay? This E-Verify is based on the data that immigration employees are putting into the system. So you have to create a case. It's really quick. It's very fast. It's voluntarily. You'll have to create an account. So you don't have to do it, but you could do it if you want to. It will help you verify an employment. However, like I say, sometimes you will get false positives and negatives. For example, like in Spanish, we use so many characters that you guys don't use in English. And the immigration officer happened to include an accent on my name. You immediately are going to get a negative that person is not authorized to work. So I ask you to please be very careful when you receive a negative, because that could end up, with employment discrimination law, that you didn't do your due diligence and deny that deny that employee to work for you under invalid reasons. So just be very careful. Let me go. So So now we're going to we're going to talk about who is authorized to work in the US. Permanent residents, they don't need work authorizations. They have to show you is just this green card, and that's all the documents that you need. Now, who is a green card holder? Who is a legal permanent resident? Again, I cannot go to a US embassy and say, I want to live legally in the US and I want a green card. Where do I put my name? No, you can only get a green card because you have a relative in the US, your mother, your spouse, or a US citizen child, or a US citizen sibling. Now, it is not a fast process. If I'm married to a US citizen, it will be a little quick as long as I came to the country with a visa, with documents, or if we met in my country and we got married in my country and I can come here. I am a US citizen. I can file a petition on behalf of my siblings. Currently, immigration is processing petitions from 2007. So that means that my relative is going to wait 18 years to come to the US. When we talk about Mexico, the waiting list is even longer. For Mexico, they are processing applications from 2001. That means 24 years until my sibling can come to the US. At that point, my sibling is going to be too old. It will need medical insurance. And who at that age wants to, when you're too old, when you're over 60, migrating is so hard. Nobody will make that decision. So the whole chain migration system, it's a joke. It doesn't exist. The only people as a US citizen I can file for without a waiting time are my parents. And again, nobody over 60 wants to move to a different country. Or my spouse or my US citizen kids that are under 21. If they are over 21, it's also several years in the waiting list to get here. That's the only waiting list that exists, by the way, but there is one. I was lying at the beginning. There is one waiting list, and that's the siblings. Another way to get my green card is because, I came here with a student visa or a work visa, and I found an employer that was able to sponsor me, so I was able to get my green card. Very, very difficult. Again, if I just go to the US Embassy and say, I'm a hardworking person, I just want to work honestly in the US, I want to pay my taxes, what application should I submit? It doesn't exist. In order to get a work visa, I will have to show that I have a lot of money and I will come and invest in the US, then the doors are open for me. Or I'll have to show that I'm super smart and a highly desired professional, and then they will let me come. But again, the community we work with, the population we work with, are just people that are escaping again poverty, violence, and they just want to work hard and provide better for their families, which it is a human right. But many people don't see it that way. And there are some humanitarian visas that will allow to get to a green card. So here is important to say that many people that came to the US undocumented, for them to get a legal status in the US is very difficult, not impossible. There are some visas that are available for some undocumented people. The vast majority are because they were victims of horrible crimes and they cooperated with law enforcement, which unfortunately happens more than we would like to happen. So our clients are target for crime in the community because they are an easy target, because they are terrified. They are not going to call the police. They are not going to report these crimes. So when our clients are victims of violent crimes in the US and they cooperate with law enforcement, they are able to get a U visa, or if they were victims of trafficking, they will be able to get a T visa. If maybe I got married to a US citizen, and if I came to the US undocumented without documents, even if I marry a US citizen and I have 10 US citizen kids, I will not be able to get a status because I came to the US without documents. But if I marry a US citizen and I'm a victim of domestic violence, I will be able to get help in the US. But in most of the cases, the common factor is that I will have to be a victim of a crime in order to be eligible for something. Asylees and refugees, and I don't know if you're very familiar with the concepts of asylees and refugees. Refugees come or used to come to the US designated by the United Nations. Unfortunately, under this administration, we are not going to see many refugees or zero refugees coming to the US. The United Nations designate countries, people from certain countries that are being persecuted because of their religion, nationality, race, political opinion, or membership to a particular social group. And they put them in a refugee camp. The statistics shows that about only 10% of people, of refugees living in a refugee camp, will be resettled, will be able to leave to another country, and about 90% are going to die in a refugee camp. So from that 10%, the refugee doesn't get to pick which country they want to go. Each country says how many refugees they can take, and then they go through extensive background check. You know, many refugees will be 12 years in a refugee camp until they are finally able to come to the US or whatever country wants to take them. So the chances again that we receive criminals here, it's almost non-existent because they go through extensive background check. And once they arrive here, they are automatically allowed to work. They don't need a work authorization. All they need is the letter that they came here as refugees, their I-94 that show that they came here as refugees. Asylees, as I was telling you earlier, an asylee is someone that arrived in the US. It could be through the south border, which again is a legal way to come, or it could be that I came here with a tourist visa and I overstayed because I'm terrified to go back to my home country. So I have to apply for asylum status in the US. I only have 1 year to apply. If I don't apply within 1 year, I lost my chance to apply for asylum. And I have to show the same things. I have to show that I'm being persecuted because of my race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership to a particular social group. Currently, and these are most of the employees you are going to work with, if I came to the US with a visa, I'm going to submit my asylum application through the USCIS office. If I came here through the border without a visa, I'm going to apply for asylum with the court. Both Immigration Court and USCIS, as I said earlier, have a ridiculous backlog. My office is waiting on interviews with the USCIS office for applications that were submitted in 2015. So 10 years and my clients have not received an interview yet. However, in the meantime, they do have a work authorization and they are authorized to work in the US. The same thing with Immigration Court. The waiting time is not as long, but it's at least about 3 to 5 years that they wait until they have a hearing with an immigration court to finally have a decision in their asylum case. If their asylum is approved, then they are immediately issued this I-94. And that's another problem we have with many employees. Because these asylum seekers were always working with a work authorization, the employers keep asking for the work authorization. Once the asylum seeker is approved for asylum, they will receive this I-94 and they no longer need a work authorization. Immigration will no longer issue a work authorization. So for employers, it's very important to know that difference. If they show you this asylum approval with the I-94, they no longer need that employment authorization. We tell our clients, go immediately to the Social Security office to get an unrestricted Social Security number so you don't run into trouble with your employer and lose your employment, even if it's for a short period of time. The temporary protected status is again temporary protected status, and it's not a path to get a green card or to get a citizenship and stay in the US. It's a specific status that the government will give to certain countries when something horrible has happened in that country. For example, Haiti. You know, the situation in that country is terrible. So when the president decides to help that country, pretty much the president says, I'm going to allow Haitians that are already in the US to be able to work legally in the US so they can help their country. And the president will set a date. So if something, let's pick another country. Let's say Chile. They had a terrible earthquake yesterday and the country is destroyed. So the president will say, okay, any Chileans that are already in the US will be able to apply for temporary protected status as long as they can show that they came to the US before December 31st of 2024. So it will not apply for people that will come after that day. So anybody who is here undocumented and came before that, they will be able to apply for a work authorization. Again, this is a temporary status. Every 18 months, the president will decide whether they extend this status or they terminate it, which is what happened right now with all our friends from Venezuela. The president has terminated their status. Many of these friends from Venezuela came through a legal program, the humanitarian parole that President Biden instated for these countries, for Venezuela, for Haiti, for Nicaragua, and Cuba. So many of the people that came here with documentation will not be able to work after April because of this order that the president is giving. So again, this is a temporary status. And it is important to see that every category, every work authorization has a category. So that's the easiest way for you to recognize what what status this person has. So in this case, for temporary protected status will be the A12. That's the category. And on the other ones that I was showing you, will see. Like DACA, we were talking about DACA. I'm sure you all heard about DACA because we've been listening to DACA in the news so much, but that's for children that were brought in the US when they were minors. So like their category will be C33. So if you just go to Google and put the category, you will know exactly what that person's status is. So that's the easiest way to find out. And DACA are allowed to work in the US, but it is also a temporary status. It is not a path for a green card. That is something we've been fighting for so many years because these are kids that live most of their lives here. They don't know any other country. They went to school here. They are working in several jobs. They have degrees. So we are fighting for these kids, no kids anymore, adults, to have a path to get a green card. Brian, talk a little bit about the international students. Some international students are able to work in the US, but with a lot of restrictions. So it's important if you have a student to just look up what type of visa do they have and if you can employ them. And if you have questions about these international students or work visas, as I was telling you earlier, there are so many work visas and ways that you could sponsor your employees to get a work visa. Not everyone is eligible. We'll be happy to invite an expert that can talk to you about that process and how you can do that sponsor to your employees. And now we want to talk. I told you I talk a lot, guys. You know, you need to time me here. So how do we protect our employees in our workplace? Again, ICE will come to your workplace every now and then to audit your I-9s. They will let you know, however, they are not going to just show up and ask you to show them your I-9 documents. They have to give you a 3-day notice. So what will trigger this visit? Maybe you got a letter from Social Security saying that one of the numbers, they couldn't match one of the numbers. Do not ignore these letters. Take care of those letters right away so you avoid an audit from immigration. If they are going to audit you, talk to an employment attorney and they can help you doing a self-audit before ICE arrives. So you have everything ready and everything is correctly when they come to audit you. What is the difference with an ICE raid? That they usually will show unannounced because they suspect that you are employing undocumented people. Okay? And here is when it's very important for you as employers to know your rights and talk to your employees about their rights. Everyone in the US has rights regardless of our immigration status. So one of our rights is to remain silent. You don't have to answer the questions that ICE will do to you as employer or to your employees and talk to them about staying quiet, one. Two, nobody can get into your workplace without a warrant. If ICE comes to your workplace, they have to have a valid warrant to go into your private spaces. And that's why as employers, it's very important for you to identify the private areas on your workplace. So for example, when we come here, the front desk, it's a public area. Anybody can come to the front desk. But nobody can just come and walk into this office and come into this meeting without proper authorization from whoever is managing this building. So it's very important to put those signs that this is a private area, so ICE will need a court order to get into that area. Work with your employees so they are aware when you have like a secret word for them to know that ICE is in the building, so they can go to one of those safe private areas. So
Mara, could you share some, maybe we're getting sorry, but the difference between like an administrative warrant versus?
yes, I have,
Okay,
that,
all right.
yeah. So many US citizens, we don't even know how a warrant looks like, right? And we're not going to be able to recognize the document. So this is a proper warrant. If ICE comes with this document that says exactly who they are looking for and what address they are authorized to go in, and it is signed by a judge, and very important, it comes from a court. It could be a federal court, it could be a state court. So if they have this order, then that's a judicial order and you have to obey that order. However, 99% of the times, ICE will not have this order. ICE will come with a deportation order. A deportation order is not a warrant that allows them to go into your private spaces. It is a valid arrest order. If they have this order against me and they see me on the street, they can arrest me with this. But this document does not allow them to go into my house or to, when they come to your workplace, to go into your office or your warehouse or your private spaces. The easiest way to recognize is that it has the government seal in one corner. It does not have an address anywhere where they can go in because, again, this document does not allow them to go to a physical place. And it is usually signed by an immigration officer, by border security, border BPS, an INS officer, an ICE officer, but it is not signed by a judge. So if they come with this document, you don't have to allow them to go into your building. Yes.
Really like this conversation. Unrelated. Say they were destroyed with them. Then they.
The moment you allow them into your private space, you are allowing them, and they can do whatever they want and look for whoever they want. And talk to your employees, like, don't start running, don't panic. If you could even do drills, so just go into a private area, because if you start running, they could immediately arrest you, thinking that you are escaping because you're violating your immigration status. Yes.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, they didn't.
Absolutely, and you should train your staff at the front desk for them to immediately learn how this document looks like, to say that they are exercising their right to remain silent, and to ask to call a supervisor. If you feel safe and you think you can record what's happening, please do so. Because unfortunately, when ICE comes to these places, there are so many rights violations. And the fact that we have that video, that could really help us to fight for your employee. So if you cannot record it, after you have that encounter with ICE, just write down everything that happened, because that will really help organizations like us to try to fight for immigrant employees. Also, if you could visit our website, and if you could share, please, with your employers all this information. We have it available in English and Spanish, and next week is going to be available in French and Creole. Are documents for your employees to learn what their rights are, for your employees to prepare, because again, there are so many of your employees that may have a work authorization that unfortunately this administration will try to deport them. So it could be people that are here with a legal status or a pending application that unfortunately will be targeted by this administration. So if they can learn their rights, if they can prepare their relatives, their families, think of who is going to take care of their kids if they are arrested, give a power of attorney to someone they know and someone they trust, so they can temporarily take care of their kids and send them to their country if they want them to, for their kids to join them. If they are going to stay in the US, then that document is going to allow that person to file for custody in court, so they can take care of the children. In the bottom of and I have a few physical copies. Sorry, I didn't bring enough. If you want to take one with you, but also for families to complete the information about their kids, because whoever's going to watch your kids should know who's the doctor. Do my kids have allergies? What's the school? Who is the teacher? Ask your employees to memorize a phone number. In these days, we don't know phone numbers by heart anymore. So if they are arrested, they will have the right to make one phone call. And that phone call should be to someone they trust and someone that knows what to do, that knows who their attorney is, who to contact. Because if they try to call their attorney and they are arrested at 8 p.m, they are going to waste the only phone call they have, because the attorney is not going to answer, not at that time. So let's talk to our employees. If you all want us to go, we are doing specific presentations about know your rights to the community, and we'll be happy to go to your workplace if you want us to talk to your employees about what to do and how to prepare. We're bringing material and we're helping them, because they also have to complete a financial power of attorney, because as you well know, immigrants are hardworking people, and they were able to make money. They bought houses, they bought cars, they open businesses, they have a bank account. So someone that they trust should be able to take care of all their things if they are deported, to sell their house and send their money. So we're talking about them, how delicate this piece of information is, because you really have to give this power to someone who you trust 100%, because with money, we never know, right? So we are working with clients on that. So if you do, if you need that, please, this is our, oh God, it's not our website there. But if you visit Immigrant and Refugee Law Center, and if you do have clients, they can complete the request for a consultation form. We'll be happy to talk to them and see if they do have an immigration remedy available. You can apply for as many remedies you might be eligible for. So even if they have an outstanding case, it doesn't hurt to talk to someone that knows immigration law to see if they have another path to get legal paperwork in the US. And thank you so much. I told you I talk a lot, guys. Thank you. We'll be happy to answer any questions.
So for example, if somebody knocks on your door, you just open the door to say, well, they come in. The same as entry.
Absolutely. So we are
Even like at a house or an apartment, if you just open the door to see there, they can.
even if you just peek on the door, they are going to push the door and they are going to come in because you are allowing them to enter. So we're talking to our clients. Do not open the door to anybody. If they say that they have a warrant, ask them to show you the warrant, like put it underneath the door or to put it on a window. But do not open the door, because the moment you open the door, you are allowing them in your house. And unfortunately, ICE uses so many tweets in Rouses to get you to open the door. We have had cases, and they can show up just the way I am right now. They don't have to show up in their gear and with their guns, and they will knock the door and say, "Hey, we are a construction company. We're hiring employees," just to make an immigrant open the door. And again, the moment they just open a little peek on the door, that's it. That they are going to get into your house. Yes.
Hi, so let's say you're current your school, but after the end you apply. So is that still in Salvador? So is there another way to get it full-time job with family? For example, when in school or stuff like that. And also, it kind of, I think that it kind of depends on your field of study, because what I noticed, STEM major is kind of harder to get like sponsorship because of the competitive field, and it might be easier for another person in another field, let's say, so like, is there another way to get like a full-time job without having to go to like people?
It all depends on your individual case, because again, you could have a student visa, but you could also be escaping persecution in your country. So we can apply for asylum while you still have your student visa, and you can keep studying and using your student visa. Maybe you were a victim of a crime. We can also apply through that U visa for you. Now, as far as employment only, that's not my area of expertise, but I would love to talk to you and connect you with we have a board member that is an expert on employment immigration that could help you. But I know it's a very complicated process, and you do have to have an employer that's involved and willing to do the sponsorship, but it is very long. Now, if you're so in love with someone who is a US citizen, well, that's great. You should propose. No, just kidding.
So,
Don't they?
so I can add a little bit to this. So in addition to what Myra has shared, so yes, there's the H-1B process. So if you're in a STEM field, the beauty of as an F1 student, you have CPT, which is curricular practical training. Then you have OPT. This is for the broader group, right? CPT and OPT. When you graduate, you can work for a year. And if you're in a STEM field, you could have that STEM extension for another 2 years. So for the employers in the room, you can have an international student come work with you for 3+ years, right? Which when we think about when we're hiring young professionals, they're only on an average staying around 2.5 years. So you get that longevity with an international student, right? So there is some benefits to hire, and there's no additional cost, there's no need for sponsorship. When we're talking about CPT and OPT, right? It's when at the point you're talking about, after you have OPT, you've completed that, then you and the employer have to make a decision whether or not there will be sponsorship, Or there's other things like a national interest waiver. You maybe, a lot of internationals found companies, and so they can look at some self-employment opportunities and have recurrent H-1Bs with universities. So that's another pathway. So there are multiple pathways. There's an O visa for extraordinary talents. And so there are a variety of options. Investor visa, you mentioned the E-visa. So there's some E2, E3 visas that are available, as well as national interest waiver and some others. But like Myra said, I think talking with an attorney, and then we can help as well, and talk about exploring some other options. And for employers, again, there, in addition to the sponsorship, there are some other pathways that employers can take on to be able to retain the international students after that 3.5 years, right?
So last question, please. Let's, like again, you're an international student, you didn't come from oppression or some stuff like that. You just came here to study, right, done your study. When you, can you use your OPT to, like, for example, say, instead of going to work for a company, I'm gonna try to fund my company. So like, can you like do that, like fund, like start your company, the request like, while being an OPT? Like something like.
Yes, so so the US does not have an entrepreneurial visa like 35 other countries do, right? So, but in the absence of an entrepreneurial visa, we have what's called a global entrepreneur in residence. So nationally, there is a global EIR network that Work Compass is a part of. And so where it's basically where international students who during OPT found a company and then are able to, get the name, get registered with the state, get an EIN, and then build your board and such. And then you can enter into this EIR program where there's pathways. And so this has been approved by it's been audited by Department of Homeland Security, it's been approved by USCIS. And so it is a legitimate program in the absence of an entrepreneurial visa, which we're trying to advocate for, right? But yes, there is on this specific question around if you do have a company that you founded or wanting to, we will be happy to talk with you about what that process looks like, because you can leverage the cap exempt, because as Myra shared, the H-1B is capped at 85,000, right? 65,000 for undergrad and then 20,000 for additional graduate students. So 85, and usually there's about anywhere from 180 to 300,000 people that apply each year. So we actually need to increase this number for the H-1B. However, there is what's called a cap exemption. So for research institutions like NKU, like a university, and then others that are involved in research could leverage a cap exempt H-1B. And I'm sorry, I see I'm passing over. I'm getting over in the weeds here. But I think there are pathways here to explore where you leverage your OPT, found your company, and maybe even engage in some self-employment. But you have to be careful about what that looks like. And then start hiring other people as well. So yes, there's a pathway. So I think we should talk after.
Can you look the name of the thing you like this organization you or like the
Global entrepreneur.
Yeah, global EIR, and then with us, it's Inside Compass. So if you just reach out to me, we can talk about that and get plugged in. We're working with about 20 different students right now. Yeah.
My name's Mark. I work for the Career Development Office and I work directly with job seekers. Part of our efforts in the past has been identifying what we call fair chance employers, employers that'll hire people with a legal background. We've been fairly successful with that. Do you know any, and some of the people here might know, is there a list or a resource that we could identify employers that have hired immigrants in the past, and perhaps even what countries they've hired from, so that we can direct them to those companies and maybe have a better success rate of getting them on board there?
There's not such list in,
I can,
I was waiting for the big chamber.
I can speak a little bit on behalf. A list, I agree. I think a list like that would be wonderful.
Yeah.
My feeling and what I know right now is most are hiring immigrants because they cannot fill the positions with other candidates. And they're willing to invest those dollars to sponsor.
Sure.
So again, I think it's not here, I'll hire, this is what I'll do and open the doors, but there's a lot of variables on the number of positions that they cannot fill. They're hiring executive recruiters, they're paying big bucks to try to find them in the US. And then if that doesn't work, then yes, we'll go and pay elsewhere. So
Well, I'm just saying, if we could start identifying, as we have, we've identified employers that are willing to hire people with a legal background. Maybe we should start as a workforce development to identify those companies that have hired immigrants in the past. So they know about this, so it's easier for those employers, those immigrants to walk through the door and say, okay, I have this credential, I have this credential, I'm ready to
We
go.
just have to be very careful about it because we don't want to cross the line to employment discrimination. That'll be a problem. You cannot.
Yeah,
just
but
say
we could,
hire
as a workforce development person, I know XYZ company has hired people. Let's apply to that position. You have the skills. That's what I'm just saying. Is there any, as far as what I'm trying to accomplish and my colleagues are, to get the, identify those specific companies that have dealt with in the past so that we can make good referrals to those companies. Because as you said, they're hard workers, they want to work, they have the skills, let's get them hooked up with a company that maybe has a history of hiring them, so it makes it a little easier.
Absolutely. Just like you were saying, many employers are willing to provide additional services to immigrant employees so they can, they are able to hire them. I know some of them even offer English classes during work
Yeah.
hours.
Yeah.
That's attractive.
What we've seen is with Fair Chance is that once they say, yeah, these people, we've hired some, they're doing good, yeah, bring them up, yeah, we'll hire some more. We've got over our fear of what we were expecting and that we've been able to use them and, you know, it was a good hire. So I was just curious if anybody's thought about doing that.
Yeah, so like two things on one side, there isn't like an informal list, so where providers are working together, whether it's for
Yeah.
donations that, like, we know, like, there are some friends, right?
Mhm.
On the other side, we've tested and looking to kind of build like an employer roundtable to kind of get three things. One, that kind of peer-to-peer learning to help with businesses to work with each other on sharing best practices. The second level being sharing like deeper dives into technical aspects like I-9 compliance and things like that. And then some broader strategies. The third thing would be broader strategies like, is your job application attractive to multilingual talent? Does your applicant tracking system have built-in biases where if like you mentioned, like accents on a name, like, or like if, you know, and so does that weed out someone's application because they put Accra, Ghana as an accountant, right? So looking at those kind of things and work with them and also onboarding practices as well. And through that, and we've talked with employers like, we don't need another toolkit, we don't need another certification, like that's just too much. But if we can have this kind of informed network to do this, and then say, all right, if you meet this kind of guidelines of like inclusive recruitment, onboarding, retention practice, then we can share at least to say, hey, Career Center, you know, hey, you know, whatever may be like to say, like, here's some folks that have met these basic requirements and have a history of doing so. So we're building that out
Good.
now, and I think as we build, yeah, and as we build it out, if you have employees that be interested in this, let us know. And there are some really good. The last thing I'll share is like in Ohio, we have what's called Ohio Business for Immigration Solutions. And so what that does is it provides industry to work on policy issues. So looking at how to reduce barriers for internationally trained professionals to get licensed. Kentucky's doing great in a lot of ways on that area. Also, Kentucky's combining integrated English language learning with technical training. So English for hospitality, English for the healthcare professions and things like that, and putting money behind these programs. So I think looking at those kind of options as well, and WIOA authorization and who has access to this funding for career training, either at a career center or even on-site training as well. So we're looking at those kind of practices as well. There are some best practices from some employers that are members of the Northern Kentucky Chamber. I don't want to call any employer out by name, but there's a lot of good, but I think that is this way to continue building. So I look to that conversation happening. Well, there's a lot of money. I think we do.
So, Mark, Brad Dansbury's not here today, but he has, I don't want to call it a list, because if you remember with the,
Yeah.
same
Yep,
thing,
I know.
same thing with, you know, when we started the Fair Chance
Right.
women.
They don't wanna be,
Employers
yep.
didn't want to be put on a list,
Yep.
but they did communicate if they were open to that and inclusive. So we do have employers So I'm thinking like preventing Bay Mel, for example, and then I'm thinking about like at the airport, right? Like this is why Brad will give more details, but so there's one company Prospect where a supervisor is out of West Africa. However, for Prospect, you do need to be able to speak English. But what they've been able to do is communicate with other employers that are present at the airport to get a significant number of the West African population that's coming in, opportunity and employment at the airport. So they're communicating with each other, and that's really helping as well. So again, no official list, but he can definitely tell you employers that are.
Cool. Very good. Thanks, Douglas.
Are there any bonding programs or bond programs to try to promote immigration, like hiring immigrants? Because I know we have them for people that are justice involved, just to get employers to be interested, you know, is there anything like that that would get them to the point where they're like, hey, I would love to sponsor this person. So they would cover the cost for X amount of months. Nothing I'm aware of.
Yeah. Like these roundtable is weird, like when I was sharing things like that, but not something specific. And there's a kind of a dark history around that with immigration, around warehousing and violation of labor laws in that kind of space. But as far as good quality, good programs, I mean, there's things like in healthcare, there are some kind of programming, and for international trained professionals, there's some programs, but not quite in the way that you're talking about. But I'd love to hear your thoughts about it and see what, because I think there's some opportunities there. Who else had it? Oh, the one thing about, so you brought up language, right? So this is a hard one for us because the barrier for English only hiring and retention policies is very high.
Yeah.
Many employers are unwittingly engaged in EEOC violations for having English only policies. So we hear this a lot. There's been a chilling effect. Well, we can't hire someone because they have limited English proficiency, and it's a safety issue. Safety is not enough barrier to meet the threshold for EEOC. Now, granted, 2 of the commissioners were just fired, and so the implementation of this is going to be a little bit hard. And plus, we're not going to come in with a stick saying, well, you violated. What we want to do is help to work with them, build that capacity. So you've mentioned some employers who really do a great job of like making sure that their applications are in multiple languages, that their onboarding focuses less on textual but more visual and more audio. So that which helps all communities, right? And so we want to work with employers to look at, you know, is your English only policy, what's the reasoning behind it? Is it compliant with EEOC and others? Then how can we look at building some capacity and strategy? So like you mentioned CBG, and I think they'd be able to like have built-in like tech strategies to have multilingual onboarding and training on site as well. So we can even talk with employers about those types of strategies as well, so that they can reduce the barriers they have to tap into this multilingual talent.
I don't want to cut off the conversation if there are any questions, any additional questions. Please join me in thanking Brian and Myra. Thank you, appreciate it. All right, so as we normally do, I would like to have take the opportunity for everybody to do report outs. We actually have enough time to go around. Slightly larger crowd than usual, which is great. I would like to intentionally start with Allie, because Vicki shared with me that Allie Kentucky Refugee Ministries has a fundraising event coming up. So Allie, would you like to tell the group about that?
Yeah, so. So. Housing and services that we typically give supplement for our clients until Ian and I are able to find jobs. which can take a couple weeks, couple months, depending on the client. So we are partnered with West Six Brewing. They actually are located in all three of the cities that Aaron's are in, so Covington, Louisville, Lexington. So this entire month, if you go to West Six, which is actually like a block from our office, on Sixth Street in Covington, if you order the flight, which you can customize, you don't have to like all the ones that they have on their flight. But if you order the flight, then a portion of that goes to this, just for funding for basic needs for our clients. And then we're having an actual event at the end of the month on the 28th, for that will be. We'll go to a certain sales, and the other Louisville and Lexington are also doing the same thing. So Wessex is actually on the first floor, and then Louisville Lexington is on the top floor. There. But so if you have colleagues or anything that want to support, maybe go to Wessex on the some of us. And then we will be announcing some more development events. You can also go to our website, just donate or to share, volunteer, whatever you want to do, or just to contact us, because there are a lot of obviously employers in the room.
Awesome. Thanks, Ally. Would you like to give everybody that website one and
Sure, it's just
KYRM? Okay, that's easy enough.
I think you have a GoFundMe happening right now.
yes, so because of the rental assistance that we now no longer have access to, launch GoFundMe. Yesterday actually, we already raised over $1,000 one night. But please, a lot of persons who can find it, go on GoFundMe. I can send you the link if you want. And yeah, it's going directly to the main center. Get hired.
Thanks, Ally.
Mhm.
All right, we do have enough time to just go around. Please say your name, organization, and if you have an organizational update, please go ahead and share that. Let's start with Sarah.
Is putting together what is called our new. So, I don't have the dates, I'm trying to get info from her as we speak. But essentially very similar to Fair Chance, we have a Fair Chance Academy as well. It's for employers to come and learn about how to be more friendly to these populations that they're not familiar with yet. And the legal side of things, the human side of things, all the way around. And so I will chat with you all. I definitely want to make sure that you all get connected with her. But where Brian was talking about kind of the roundtable of these resources that are getting connected and like there being a list of employers. Well, there's going to be a list after that academy. I'll tell you that. You don't keep things quiet. So all of our Fair Chance Academy employers are on a list on the website. So know that there's, work being done, obviously, if it's well or leading the way. I'm sorry that Lori could. That.
Douglas Beard, I work at Brian Center, and I work here at the Kentucky Career Center. I would just say that we are always to take individuals who are interested in being in the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act, here referred to as WIOA, but we are definitely taking referrals for WIOA. So if you have somebody who'd like to upskill, possibly get some training in order to be in the workforce, we are happy to take this.
My name is Teresa Johnson.
Clause. Rehabilitation.
Is really trouble.
Go on the board, OBR counselor, Lawrence office.
Joe Grackman with Specialty Interiors. We are a commercial construction company, specialized in drywall, ceilings, walls, doors, everything you see in this building. And we're always looking for new help, qualified help. You know, and they have to have a vehicle, stuff like that, to get to the jobs. We're always looking. I've met with Aldo before and several other agencies, you know, trying to open a door for specialty and for the people. Anybody has anybody, let me know.
Can they apply on your website or?
I got a right here I can give you.
Okay, great.
And yeah, no, they don't do it on the website. They come into our office. It's off the Buttermilk Pike. And they meet with me.
Yeah, I'd like to talk to you briefly.
Absolutely.
Currently, we are recruiting for a first impression specialist. And first will reception duties for the location here in Covington, as well as help us with managing our marketing for the career center system in Northern Kentucky. So if you know anybody that might be a good fit for this role, apply on right to the website.
Hi, I'm Cindy Ward. I work with the Career Development Office for the state of Kentucky. So I help people who are unemployed get employment or provide resources to help them with their skills or their resume or anything else they can help with.
Kingdom Puppets, OBR Employment Solutions. Hi, everybody. I'm Michelle Cobb. I'm the branch manager of the Florence OBR office.
Everybody, I'm Chris Rickles. I'm the Dean of Business, IT, and Professional Studies at Gateway Community Technical College. Currently leading our English language learner efforts. So for a long time, we've had ESL courses for students that are needing those skills in life and work. But we're really working toward creating courses that will service entry into this credit-bearing college courses, because that's kind of been a historic big act for us. So here I'm learning. So appreciate any connection. I've brought a ton of business cards.
I'm Sister Sally Duffy. I serve on the board at Trial. I'm here because of the topic and was part of the group that's began Compass. And I also serve on the board of Catholic Legal Immigration Network. We are the largest not-for-profit provider in the United States of legalization services for immigrants, with 430 affiliates throughout the country and in every state but one.
My name's Anna Citizen, and I'm for Kentucky Streets.
Hi, I'm just attending, just out of curiosity, I am pleasure at Kentucky University, and I can just the same, I just back on my other internship, I did like a Tesla, so here's for, what's how they also should be.
Hi, I'm Mark. I'm a student at Kentucky University. I just came here to serve.
Lauren Gabbard. I am a career navigator at the Kenton County Public Library. Not sure how everyone knows about our programs, but we do have Career and Job Services Division where we help people with all aspects of the job hunt. So resumes, interviewing, cover letters, 30-second introduction, elevator pitch, everything we have a class for. And we also host the Northern Kentucky Accountability Group every Wednesday from 9:15 to 11:30, where we'll have a speaker and then we break out to groups based on where you are in the job search.
Hello, my name is Bridget Keith and I'm the HR Director for Encompass Health Rehabilitation Hospital in Northern Kentucky. We just came today because we have seen more paperwork going through I-9s that I just want to make sure that we're doing the right thing for our staff and future staff.
My name is Natalie Thornton and I also work in the HR department for Encompass Health. So.
Hi, I'm Nancy Spivey, the Vice President of Talent Strategies with the Northern Kentucky Chamber of Commerce. I know most of you, but anything we can do to help. And one thing I will mention is the Chamber has a podcast weekly, and you all are invited to come on and share. I'm thinking of Ally, we might need to get you back on to talk about what's going on. Yeah, I think there's time, there's times that we want to reach out to the employers in the community and say, we need your help around this, so,
Mark, been here before, work for the Career Development Office here at Career Center and work with job seekers, trying to help them overcome barriers. Hi.
My name is Nathan Granger. I am the Kenton County reporter with LinkedIn KY. I am reporting on this event. If you don't know who we are one of the few news organizations here in the region. We got sports. We cover most of the local governments. We're working on expanding our arts and culture coverage and our investigative coverage as well. Tonight at the Erlanger branch of the Kenton County Public Library, we are having our second community conversation. It is free and open to the public. Doors open at 5:30. It's about how to get involved with the community. We will have several speakers, including the mayor of Dayton, Kentucky, and CEO of Fiesta, Northern Kentucky. Come on down. Feel free to talk to me. I'll be here for a little bit.
Oh, that's good.
Do any of you guys want to introduce yourselves? We can stop sharing.
I wonder if we can switch the view so that we could see our audience. Probably so. Stop share.
All right, this is your chance. Speak up.
Still share?
Nope.
Okay. That's the one.
Hi, I'm Kyla. I'm just, I work in HR at a healthcare facility here. I'm just here to gain some knowledge. I do have some students that I kind of help on the side that I'd like to give information to. So that's what I'm here for. Thank you guys for everything.
So, Kyla, make sure that we have anybody who's online, make sure we have your email addresses because we're going to share the PowerPoint, but we're also going to share the packet that Myra put together. So make sure that if you didn't officially register with me, then make sure that somehow I know you were here. So we're what we're showing right now is that, right? We're showing the PowerPoint. So anybody else want to go? We can't actually see you, but we can hear you. Anybody else want to introduce themselves?
Yeah, can you hear me? I'm Mark Nagy. I'm with Wendell Incorporated. We do assessments primarily for folks in the venture capital space as well as the HR space. And I'm here because we may be hiring some folks with technical skills that would be considered to be legal immigrants. So we want to make sure we do the right thing.
What was the name of your company, Mark?
Wendell.
Now we can really hear you. That was awesome.
Oh,
okay.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm Mary.
Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. I'm Marian Eilenfeld. I'm currently with Gateway's Workforce Solutions. So we do a lot of upskilling with the companies you were talking about, trying to help them with English as a second language, but also teaching trades to people where English may be an obstacle. And then I also teach engineering courses at NKU, and it seems like I have a bunker group of international students this year. So I was trying to listen in and hear how these students can get their internship and all that good stuff.
Thanks, Marian.
And hi, I'm Sheena Parton. I'm with Huff Realty Relocation, and I'm just here to learn and also have to wear a hat every now and then as co-facilitator or co-chair of events and planning.
Thanks, Sheena.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Lumaris Rivera. I'm actually an HR regional manager for sanitation specialist. We do have an account here in Covington. And obviously due to employee relations, a lot of the employees approach me with everything that's going on right now politically nationwide. So I'd like to gain some information and help guide them with anything that I can possibly guide them with. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks for being here. Anybody else? All right, Corey, you're back on.
Just like time to wrap this up. So,
Yeah.
Just wanted to say thank you once again for spending time with us this afternoon. Thank you again to Ron, Myra Jackson, for great presentations. And let's keep this conversation going because it's an important one. Thank you. Have a good afternoon. Now, please pay attention to the screen for our upcoming Partner for Success events. Next one is May 8th, successfully hiring veterans with Rusty Martin, if you know Rusty, so that'll be a good event.
Mhm. Thank you, guys. Is it? Because this computer, because this was sent to that. So. It was almost like, you know how you see the same thing on your computer at work? It was basically like that. But this is where the Zoom